Welcome to another episode of the South Star Classroom. Before I get into my spiel, the matriarch of the show is here. So I have to, Omar and I have to be back on good behavior and ask about feelings and stuff. So Omar, we'll start with you on your check-in. Jubilee is in transit, but she'll be with us via voice until she gets settled. But Omar, how you feeling, man? What's your
Doing
check-in?
all right, man. Doing all right, man. I love that we are checking in on Jubilee's feelings. That I enjoy hearing about her day and how she's doing. I'm actually, dude, I'm a little tired, but super good, man. I vanished for the weekend and went skiing up in Telluride with my sister and my niece.
Oh, nice.
Not my niece, excuse me, my brother-in-law, and my niece was sick. And got to just escape for a little bit, man. It was good times, great oldies. And it was a closing weekend. So people in costumes, people dressed as tacos, people dressed as Jesus Christ, people dressed in bikinis. I mean, it was a wild out party at the end of ski season, man. It's a crazy, it's a weird thing to see. Trust me, man, I'm always looking out for the black men and the black women on the slope. Always. They are hard to find, my man. I'm always looking
and
out.
hard to miss if we there.
I need a brother and sister in arms. Yeah.
Well,
it's just it is a very particular demographic of which we may talk a little bit about later on the show.
Yeah, ain't that how Sonny Bono died? I just remember hearing that when I was younger. And then I was like,
ran into a tree skiing. That is correct. Thank you for bringing up that tragedy amidst the whole thing.
Well, it has a strong impact on me. I'm always seeing somebody with a broken leg or dying. So anyway, David, how you doing, brother? We'll go to Jube after you.
Did y'all switch topics on us? What are we talking about?
No. We're just checking right now, brother.
Oh, just checking in. Okay.
I mean, you late, but you're not that late. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We got you.
Okay. Call my parents. Yeah, there you go. I'm good, man. Just busy running around. Kind of in peak season, working with clients that are looking to sprint to the end of the school year. So lots of exciting things happening there. And what else is happening? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. I'm glad that we are able to remain disciplined on this show because there's so much going on in our country and in the world right now. And I like on a daily basis, but I feel like, we are thoughtful on the show. We talk about issues that, we've been talking about for years and that we'll probably continue to talk about without getting too caught up in the voracious news cycle. So I'm grateful for that.
That's what's up, man. Grateful to have you.
It's crazy out there.
It is, man. People ask me like, how you? I was like, I lived through crack. Jube, how are you? It's always something happening. I don't know.
I'm good. I'm good.
Lived through the crack epidemic. Very, very front row seat. Jubilee, how you feeling? What's your check-in?
I'm doing marvelously. I'm tired and everything is going on all at the same time, but I am optimistic because there's a week to spring break, and even though I'll be working for some of it, the pace will slow down a little bit, and then when we come back from spring break, there'll be 44 more days until summer break. So at which point I'll be going to somebody's island and relaxing. So it's all good. It's to be expected at this time of year, but all is well in land of Jubilee.
That's what's up. Well,
somebody's island. You ain't go to that Jeffrey Epstein Island, are you?
I was gonna say you can't just say somebody's island. You gotta.
The island of Jamaica, the land of my mother's birth.
There you go. That's great.
All good, man. I need to get the YouTube link up. Somebody was asking for it, but I think I'm good. I just been busy. Ain't nobody worried. I mean, it is what it is. It's two different companies have a lot of different things happening at the same time. I'm blessed to do it, and ain't nobody worried about me being tired. So I'm gonna hop us into this topic. I put together a monologue for this one. Okay, so I have prepared this. Well, listen. We want to welcome you all officially to the South Star Classroom, where we shine a light on what matters most. I'm your host, Dr. Charles Cole III. Today, we're stepping into a crisis that hits close to home. As a black man, I feel this one deep, but full disclosure, my co-host, we bring a mix of perspectives, some black, some not, some parents, some not. And we have two folks here that are parents of young men of color, which this topic involves. So I'm really interested to hear them. But because this conversation definitely needs multiple perspectives, like I said, in my full disclosure moment, I've talked about this in Black spaces. I've talked about this on Black shows, and it was my week to host. I would be remiss to not bring this very educational topic here. And so here's the deal. HBCUs are powerhouses of what people might call Black excellence. I think the term is getting a little played out, but I get it. I understand why it came to be. And there are these HBCUs shaped legends, and they are losing Black men in droves. The numbers are stark. They're down to 26% enrollment across HBCUs. It's the lowest since 1976 when it was 38%. That's still 12 points lower. And since 2010, a 25% drop. At Howard University, arguably the most iconic HBCU in the nation, Black men make up just 19% of students. 19%, like 19, less than 20, way less than a quarter. It's 1/5. This isn't just data, it's a distress signal. Our brothers are stepping away from institutions built for us and by us, so we got to start there. Why are Black men increasingly opting out of HBCUs, and what societal or cultural forces are driving this trend? Team, let's break it down, and I'm gonna go to Ju first if we can get her back up. But also, I wanted to note, we looked at this before. It is also low across the board for men in general. Hispanic males are also dropping out a lot more, are not going a lot more as well. So it's not just the Black community, it's just we're seeing it most drastic there. Jube,
Yes.
Let me get your reaction. And the first question was, why do you think, well, one, you could just give your raw reaction, but why are Black men increasingly opting out of HBCUs?
I mean, all I got is questions right now because it makes me wonder, right? In a space that's supposed to be super safe, super welcoming, where you're supposed to feel super seen and valued and like you're surrounded by a community of people with similar backgrounds, that it's decreasing. So that's my first question, why? And then my other question is like, well, where y'all going? Where y'all at? What y'all doing? What are you doing instead? Because this percentage is declining, right, and decreasing, but then some other percentage is increasing. So what is that, right? Are y'all going to trade school? Are y'all hanging out at the mall? Where are y'all at? Because we know you're still being born, and we know that plenty of you are going to be college age in the year of our Lord 2025. So what are you doing instead? You know, where are you going instead? So that's my initial response. Just questions.
I've heard similar. I heard the statistic in the last like 2 weeks, Charles. So I'm glad that you brought the topic forward. I think it was on a news show, and I was blown away. And so I think I have the same questions that like I don't want to rush to judgment. But my question is, where are the young Black men going? Are they going to non-HBCUs? So overall, when you look at college going Black males, like, is the overall number still, is stable, ideally growing, or is this departure from HBCUs for young Black men part of a larger trend in non-HBCU colleges, which is kind of where my head's going, and it's obviously much more problematic.
What you thinking? Oh,
Yeah, man, I did do a little bit of research and dive into this when you brought the topic up, because I'm actually really fascinated. And I had the same questions initially, which were, okay, if they're not going to HBCUs, like, I'm just the eternal optimist. So I'm like, oh, they're going to different colleges all over the place. They're just choosing perhaps to diversify their scope of the university. There is some of that. As I dove into the research more, I found a very similar trend actually amongst Latino men as I did Black men, which is I have found a societal pressure, particularly amongst the families themselves, to become wage earners very early. And I mean, Black men, Latino men have a very interesting trajectory of starting to work when they're like 14, 15, 16, right? Like whether it's under the table 14, whether it's over the table legally 16. And then there's this expectation of becoming a provider for the family itself once out. And I think that's I heard that not in my home. My mother and my father were super adamant about me going to college and education, but in my friends' homes, it was like, oh, pues ya te creciste, ya que haces dinero. Like, hey, you grew up, like, go out there and make some money for the family. So it was interesting to me to see how this reflected on the labor market with an increase of employment of Black men. It was interesting to see like the huge decrease in Black men going to HBCUs. I thought that was like, whoa, like what prompted something like that to happen in such a short time span? So I'm doing a lot of learning on today's show as well. But just undercover, man, and not so undercover, in looking at stuff, Howard's 72% female. That is an interesting statistic, man. Because what is happening are that women are increasing their numbers in college exponentially, and still brings up the same topic of like, what are our young men doing? So as much as I could look into this and just do some basic research, let me just be the first to say that I'm still radically ignorant on the topic and kind of excited to learn a lot more during today's discussion.
I mean, it's interesting for me, man. I'm gonna pull something up because this is not necessarily it's not I think the number is somewhat of a shock, but the fact that it's happening is not to me. And it's something, if I could bring your attention, I wrote this book and I released it, and it's for Stop Hustling Backwards, Black Male and First to Go to College. I published it in 2022, and the entire thing is about how to make sure they stay, how to get them in and how to make sure they stay. I wrote it in a way that an 18-year-old can grasp it and read it and kind of like make a plan for themselves, because, and I'm just going through it kind of quickly so you can see what some of the, like, just the topics are, like talking about financial aid and how to get aid and things like that. Like, because, the socialization around college has been different for men, I think, for a while now. And I think that their boys, especially, I went to a state school, the way Toya pointed out about her kids, and you start, and they have you look left to right. In the session that I was in, they put all the Black people in one auditorium, and they said, look around. 2 out of 3 of you won't finish. And let me give you tips on how you finish. I think that's one. I think it's socialized more to women. It has been for a while, and I think it's hard to have those conversations. I think we shy away from it because nobody wants to be like, nobody wants to be looked at or seen or have their finger wagged at. But sometimes men and women have different needs, and are socialized in different ways. And a lot of boys that I've coached and worked with were like, look, we need money now. A lot of my friends left because they had to go help with bills or their family was struggling. And I have a chapter in here where I talk about, man, do you want to be able to provide some relief right now? Or do you want to be able to do it for the long haul, man? Like, you gotta, and it sucks because the message I had to give young people would be something like, it's a really mean message if you look at it without context, but it's like, if you weren't around, what would they do? If there was no you, how would that household survive? When I got to college, you get your grant money and you have a little bit left over. I got calls from family members, mostly the women in my family, Black women. I had a cousin who had kids and they needed stuff for their kid and baby. And I remember paying on a cousin's phone bill and then calling to check on her, and the dude answered the phone. It was like, who is this? And me and my cousin had to have a conversation because you got a whole man living here, but you asking me for my college grant money, right? Like, and I think these conversations are hard, especially in this climate, especially where everything is so black and white, love and hate, you know, you hate black women, you love black women, you hate black men, you love black men. And I think that and again, I don't think that is relegated just to our people, but I think because that number is so big and so glaring that we got to start having this conversation. And I know this is a long-winded answer. I'm no longer a young black man in these college settings per se. So I went and looked for black males that is in that age group, and I sent it to you all. It's kind of long. I don't know if I'll play it. Maybe I'll play a clip here or there, but it's very raw and it's very honest of a young black man who seems very smart and intelligent, who has opted out of going to college. And lastly, I would say, I think the rigor has also taken a drop in the jobs that come afterwards. I think that like before I was younger, I think that it was like you go to college, you leave, you get this high paying job, you get to do X, Y, and Z, or whatever the case is. I think the more that liberal arts majors and things like that have taken a foot and a root, and the dollars are not following in the exact same way, and I can go be a construction worker now, I can go be a manager at this place now, I have a kid, or I want to start a family, or I have these responsibilities now. I think that's kind of what happened, because I had a lot of friends in college with me and they also sold dope. So they also sold weed, or they did something else. I worked 2 jobs myself when I was in college, because I'm trying to do this enlightening thing and be smarter. I didn't do it because I wanted to be smart. I did it because I believe in what the data says. You will earn over $1 million more with a college degree than you will without one. So sorry for that long-winded answer. Let me open it up just for free falls though.
You got my brain going.
Oh.
I'll Dave, Omar, y'all got anything before I jump in?
No, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, it's really, you got my brain going, right? Like, so you're talking about black men, right? Young black men, and I'm thinking about black boys, right?
Yep.
And this trajectory, right? This K-12 continuum and this baby to man baby age, right? Between 0 and 18. But really just thinking about the influence and the time that you have within which you can capture a young boy's interest, right? And when I think about my own sons, you know, I always say, hey, y'all been reading since y'all was 3 years old, right? And I think becoming a reader is one of the biggest feats, you know, one of the biggest wins you could ever obtain, right? Knowing how to read. I think for our black boys, knowing that has historically been a struggle, right? Like, you're not reading by the time you're in 3rd grade. There's so many other things that can just fall off the radar or become impossible to obtain if you don't get them, you know, by that age. So it just makes me think, like, is this, you know, the college dropout just overall? And of course, we're talking about HBCUs today. Like, if we backtrack that and look at how many of these young men were reading by 3rd grade, how many of them experienced that success that, like, yo, I can do hard things, I can grapple with this vocabulary, I can have a conversation, right? By the time they were 8 or 9. Because what do you want me to do? So I'm in school, I'm struggling, I'm constantly in guided reading. These people don't even know how to teach me how to read. They done lied to me 20, 30 years. I still can't read. Now I'm in 8th grade and can't read on grade level. I'm in high school, I can't read on grade level. And then you think I'm about to try to struggle to complete this college application, which also requires dense reading and writing, to go and pay for an education that I may not even value and struggle for 4 more years reading more dense text for a degree that I don't even know if I'll get. Like, so I just think it's really layered, but it makes me wonder about reading proficiency and the correlation of how that's impacting college dropouts or college non-enrollments.
I think. Oh, go ahead, David.
I think going back to my time and I kind of followed the same path that you did, Charles, right? You know, I felt like there was going to be some kind of going to college, because then after college, you're going to get connected to some kind of career. You're going to make more money. You're going to have more opportunity. And for the most part, you know, that's essentially what has happened. And I know things have changed now. But I'm wondering how much the perception piece plays into it, especially for Black men and brown men, because I'm not even talking about the challenges around, you know, the university world and the greater world, not thinking that I was good enough to be at UCSD, right? I'm talking about the internal pressure I felt from my own community to say, like, David's going off to college, and like he thinks he's better than us, and you kind of get that whole level of like shaming from your own community just because you're like, just because you go into college, right? And I still lived in my neighborhood, but I went to UCSD, and I didn't like leave home. I was still home, but I caught a lot of heat from friends and from community that just didn't understand that. So all that to say, like, we're living in this very interesting time coming out of COVID, in terms of like the financial, people are getting caught up financially. There are resource issues in our communities. And sometimes it's easier to kind of, just say, I'm going to go for, I need money now. And I'm just going to I'm going to go for it because there's a path for that. I'm not going to lay out some 4 or 5 or 6 year plan because I don't know what's going to happen after that. It sounds like it's impacting, men of color, based on some of this data. But I'm also wondering about, this time that we live in, and it's kind of connected to this political moment where, you have these like male influencers that are, constantly sending this message that college is kind of a joke. The non-college movement coming from people that probably have gone to college generations in their own families, right? And at some point they decided that college is just, it's not worth it, right? For them, they already have resources. The message that sends to, Black and brown men that might be the first or second generation to attend, or even third, is quite different in terms of like, how much resources we have in our communities. So I'm wondering how much of the social messaging that young men are getting around just that same perception of going to college, what does it mean to be a man, versus working, rolling up your sleeves. That's what it means to be a man.
Right. I agree, man. And I think, go ahead. Oh, well, yeah, you were going to go ahead. Go ahead.
I just had a couple questions, and I think I was just looking at a couple of statistics. So my first question was a lot along the same lines as Jubilee, right? Well, what are the circumstances going on in K through 12? What are the circumstances going on at home? So I think about home, and I'm not just thinking, ladies and gentlemen, for our audience, when I think about these things, I think about these things holistically, meaning what's going on at home with white folks, with Asians, with Blacks, with Mexicans, with Latinos. So I'm just trying to think through my own experiences without making assumptions about any other household other than what I grew up on my own. I think about these things. So to answer a quick question to Mama Toya, we love you, Mama Toya. Just quickly, Black women always went to college. Not true. Women didn't go to college because they weren't allowed to go to college in the early 1900s. And that's why women colleges started proliferating across the country. Black women, once given the opportunity to go to college, started enrolling at exponentially higher rates. But the highest rates of university attainment in the United States is actually amongst Asians. Asians will take up the highest rate amongst men and women that are going to college right now. So that's why I asked, like, hey man, what is going on in those homes? So my sister's roommate, Jane Kim, for example, what was going on in her home? She's Korean. She was taking Kumon math and SAT prep since she was in 6th grade. I want you to think about that for a moment, because I sure as hell was not doing that. Doob, I don't know if you were doing that. Doc, I don't know if you were doing that. But when Jane Kim, who's brilliant, by the way, one of the coolest and funniest human beings that I know. Like, I adore her. Still one of my sister's best friends. When she took the SAT, ladies and gentlemen, not only did she get a 1600, which is a perfect score, she wrote the college board to correct them, because she was like, you wrote this answer wrong. This is the answer that you
I think you told us this before. I think I heard you say this before. Yeah.
Like, who the F corrects the SAT? Right. That is a good microcosm of here's what's going on in those homes. My home is very much about Omar, Soraya, you're going to college. You're not going to depend on anyone. Education is an essential component. So it makes me think a lot, like what's going on at home, what's going on at K through 12. But David's point, I don't want to just blame home. dude, there are cultural components right now that have existed for the last 10 years that, like, I personally did not have to deal with, and I'm thankful for it. Like, the internet is fucking trash, dude. Like, social media is garbage. You've got influencers who don't know shit, who are making money off of your ignorance. Like, I think influencing is the dumbest fucking thing on the face of the planet. What they are snake sale oilsmen. Those have been around since forever, right? You got a bunch of people in a fucking chuck wagon, and they're like, drink this snake oil. It's gonna cure your ailments. It's gonna cure your headache and cancer and everything else. And it's like made with lead, turpentine, and regret. And you're like, how is this gonna cure anything? That's what I think influencers are. They're manipulative. But the thing is, when you're growing up, you're susceptible to those types of messages. So you're thinking to yourself, well, there's a person that seems to know what I'm going through, seems to think and understand my circumstances. They're telling me that college isn't necessary. And the thing is, those messages get embedded, and who is giving them the counter message?
Yeah, man. I mean,
where are they getting that counter message?
And I think, and we got to have some tough conversations with it. And I think that, you know, Nicole asked the question, what does this conversation look like? Look without including statistics of black women. Here's the thing. And I think it does. And Andrew Tate must be stopped. I agree, David Castillo. But I think that, but those influencers, but there's a reason why the Andrew Tates are doing well, because we got to talk about, like you said, if it starts at the home, what are those factors? You asked me about my factors. My pops was there, and my dad never went to college. My dad went to jail, and my dad was a Marine, and my uncle is a Marine, and most of the people in my family did military or got in some type of trouble. And so I took the ASVAB. The ASVAB is the only standardized test I ever did well on. I think I scored in the high 80s, something like that. So I would have got like any type of job. And so the recruiter comes, and then he's talking to me before my dad. I think my mother, it was just me and my mother there at the time. My dad didn't get home for work, but as soon as he got home, the conversation shifted. And he said, look, man, if you really want to go to the military, I would love for you to be a Marine. I would love for you to be in that legacy. He said, but you got a real shot at doing something different. And I think you need to get this other thing a shot. I probably could have fought him, but my father always constantly saying, you're going to be better than me. Go do that damn homework. Like, ain't no games happening until that homework happened. My pops would have got with me when I had friends whose dad wasn't there. They was disrespectful to their moms in different ways that Charles could not be, because my dad was a big dude and he caved my chest in a time or two when it needed to happen. And then again, we got to have these conversations. And then I was like, well, I've been talking about this the same way me and you was talking about the Democratic thing months ago. You know, I just showed y'all a book that I wrote 3 years ago. And I hold seminars to kind of especially help single moms, right? Like, especially with boys, because you need a different type of energy. But then I was like, yo, let's see what young people are saying. Y'all, I found that video. It's kind of long. So as a team, do you think we should show like maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes of it just to get a young person's perspective? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, just to get the good vibe.
Okay. And again, there's some adult language in this conversation, but this is one of the young men who fall into this age range who is not there, and he has some very, he has some choice words. And so, team David, I will leave it to you to tell me when we should probably stop it. But let's do this. It's gonna take me a second to get this going, but here we go. Let me pull him up there.
I don't see nobody talking about this topic, bro. And trigger warning right now, because this might come across a little rash or a little hasty. I don't really care, because it needs to be said. And this conversation about the whole black man going to college thing, this is just turned into, I could tell exactly what it's turned into. It just turned into we're about to degrade and bash the black men parade, just like I do all 7 days of the week, twice on Saturday, because I got time. Look, bro, first of all, the reason why black men don't value they just simply don't want to. Y'all know that starts at home, right? Let's go ahead and act real quick, right? Let's go ahead and just start the scene. Jarquavius Marshawn Jones, sit your stupid ass down. That's how like 50 to 60% of black women are talking to their black sons. Citrus, oh, you look just like your damn daddy. That's how y'all be talking to our black sons, bro. And then y'all wondering why they're not emotional intelligent. Then you wonder why they grow up mad and angry. So then what's your next outlet? You're going to put them in sports because you know that now they're 10, 11, 12. They're getting a little bit too big. Your little whooping's not doing nothing. So now you have to put them in a contact sport in order so they can try to emotionally regulate. Oh, yeah, I'm about to put you in football. I'm about to put you in basketball. Yeah, you need to get in some sports. That'd be the first thing that happens, bro. And I live that, bro. That's literally what happens. And then number two, y'all act like going to school, like black women. Stop this whole classism superiority complex. Anybody can go to school if they are taught the right skills. The last 20, 30 years since the movie The Barbershop, since Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married, since all the little Medea plays, has been black women be independent. Don't need no man. Black women, go get your money. Don't worry about no man. Don't rely on no man out here. Don't rely on no man. That's what all Generation X, all the millennials told y'all. So y'all naturally grew up and y'all whole focus was, I'm about to go to college or I'm about to become an esthetician. I'm about to do something. I'm about to get some money and I'm about to get away from black men. The reason why y'all don't get targeted as much because y'all are not a threat. Look what happened to Malcolm X, unalive. Marcus Garvey, unalive. Bob Marley, unalived. MLK, unalive. Because when black men get education, we are a big threat. You know why? Because black men, we have the societal pressure to take our family with us, and we're not seen as valuable until we give back to the community. Black women, on the other hand, women in general, that's not a responsibility for y'all. Y'all are the weaker vessel and the more emotional vessel. So also y'all can get further while being more emotional and have less emotional regulation. Hence is why you see a black woman on a register or a black woman in places of customer service and she can have the nastiest attitude. But if a black man of her same counterpart has their same attitude, he's not even getting, they're not taking him serious in an interview. He's not getting the job. So we actually have to try harder than everybody. And this conversation is proving exactly that. So, and then the third thing, these teachers since 2020 have been on this app telling you single black moms about how the black man's at reading and comprehension level is falling behind. Who are most of the single parents? Black women. So if we're going to sit up here and berate and bash black men, let's shed some light on the full story and what's really happening at home. They're being woke up. Hurry up and get y'all ass up. Go to school. Da, da, da. That's how black men are being woken up. Yes, don't get me wrong. Yes, is the heckman in the black women. Yes, are there black women who are jealous of their daughters? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, black men are going to harbor that a lot more because we're expected to help the same mom and the same granny, the same auntie, whoever we're staying with. We're required to turn around at 17 and 18 to help them. Also, black women, for women in general, it's acceptable for society, for socially acceptable for women to be broke. Black men have to have money. We have to have money. Men have to be able to provide. And if you're not providing, you're seen as broke, destitute. You're not worth my time. That's what y'all have been telling us. So now it's all of a sudden, it's a surprise when junior year come around and SATs come around and apply for college come around and FAFSA applications come around.
You guys want me to keep going to cut it?
That. We don't have an ecosystem to help us do none of that. Do y'all
understand, right?
Like I said, there's so much regulation. You didn't have any black man in your hood, in your society.
Let's listen to the young black man.
Do this, especially legally. So, of course, we're not going to be able to achieve the same things that y'all have, though, while being in the same household or in the same communities. Don't you get it? It's very simple. If you have your same sex counterpart in the home playing their part, it's going to be way easier to do that because you've seen it. Humans are visual creatures. We're creatures of habit. So if we didn't have a black man there for 18 to 21 years, why would we just wake up junior year and just be able to start doing all this magnificent stuff y'all talking about? We keep talking about college and graduate programs. We have to start at K through 8 first. We ain't even about to get to high school. Let's start at that. Black men have the highest dropout levels for middle school and high school, but nobody's talking about that. Who's responsible? The same black women that were responsible for laying down, having said kids with these men. So we're not about to sit up here and just try to bash black men, or they just simply don't want to. Well, in therapy, the first thing that they teach y'all black women is y'all the highest, y'all number one in therapy and y'all number one in degrees. Well, you should know that that's not the real answer. Clearly, there's a deeper answer why he just doesn't want to. It's because nobody has seen him wanting to. Nobody has pushed him to want to. And black men are seen as you need to get money first, ask questions later. That's how success is marketed towards black men. That's why most black men, we do grow up listening to rappers. We do grow up listening to athletes. We do grow up listening to entertainers because that's what's marketed to us. What's marketed to Black women is be strong, independent, and do not rely on a man for nothing. And when you get your wealth, keep it to yourself. So yes, it's completely different. Black men are a threat to the white infrastructure because when we get success, they know that we're going to bring our wives with us. We're going to bring our kids with us. We're going to bring our bros with us. We're going to put everybody on. We're going to put the community on. When y'all get success, y'all hoard it, and then y'all start having a superiority complex of classism. It's not the same. So don't try to get on this app, bro. We're not about to do that, bro. And like I said, it's trigger warning. I don't care about how you feel. You can put your thoughts in the comment. I don't care. But this will be the last video I'm posting. And after this, I'm just about to sit on the sidelines because this is crazy. And it's lunacy. Trying to just act like Black men, we're just all lazy and stupid. It's insane. When y'all know damn well in them inner cities, when them kids getting off the bus, who are they listening to? King Von all day. These women don't have the emotional availability because they're a single parent taking care of 3-4 kids. They don't have the time to sit down and have a one-on-one with their son. What are y'all talking about? Just acting like niggas wake up at 16. All of us are like, yeah, bro, I'm not trying to do this school shit. Bro, they had that shit made up since they were in 5th, 6th grade. What are we talking about? Y'all crazy. I'm gone.
So, I mean, and just I know I've been taking up a lot of airspace with this, but just to prove, like, I do, like, a lot of what he said, there's a lot of truth there, because as you see here, it shows it right here. When I was in college, I had to work. I had to take 20 units. I had remedial classes. I worked work study at the library, and I also had a job at the mall, right? And my father was the driver of that. It was not my mother who was the one telling me I was going to college. It was my father. And my father was the one telling me I was going to work 2 jobs and it was like, man, that's a lot. And he said, well, that's what men do. That's what men have to do. So there's a lot of ways that people can listen to this conversation. You can listen and do what a lot of people have done on the internet and bash that young man or talk about he don't know what he's talking about and this, that, and the third, or say he's attacking people, or you can kind of listen, right? And that's why I showed evidence from 3 years ago. And I do think everybody's doing the best that they can. But I think that conversation with that demographic tends to be probably a really dismissed group, and people probably don't care as much about it. So let you all react. And Jubilee definitely first right of refusal as the Black mother here. And I know you watched this earlier and you said you appreciate what that man had to say. So let me give you the floor.
I mean, I appreciate it. Of course, I was triggered too. I see you, Nicole. She said he's right. I'm triggered. But I mean, step on some toes, and usually it's because there's some truth in there. And I do agree. I think something I'm always saying is, like, we always, as educators, we can get into the habit of, and leaders, of talking about the demographic without talking to and with the demographic. So I think this is great. Because I think we would learn a lot if we just actually talk to Black males. Hey, why you ain't going to college? Why you don't want to go to college? Like, what's up? And I think we could learn a lot about, their journeys. And so I don't know about this gentleman's journey, but I could probably guess a little bit based on his take. And like I was saying to Charles before we started, I don't like any sort of like blame game. I think there's accountability in all sorts of directions. And I think to graduate college, just like I said, learning to read is one of the biggest wins. Graduating college is one of the biggest wins. And guess what? It takes a village. Just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to get a child, to get a kid, to get a young person through college. Like, and I get it. It doesn't matter how smart or brilliant you are, how high you tested on the SAT. It takes a village to be able to get that college degree under your belt, because it's no easy feat. And it's a whole skill set that, unless you're, it's something that you're trained into. And like he said, thinking about from the time you're in 5th grade, 3rd grade, like, it's something that's foreign to you. So why would I then try to go do something that I haven't seen, haven't been encouraged to do, haven't walked outside and seen other people trying to do, right? I don't have anybody modeling that for me. I don't know that. I've been told that I am intelligent, brilliant, capable of doing hard things, right? Resilient, strong, all the things that you need to be to graduate. So it's not a thing for me. I'm going to go make this money to support my family. And that's where I'm going to stay, right? Do something that I think I'll be successful at. So there's a lot that I resonate with. I stand for Black moms everywhere. He said 50 to 60% of Black moms talk to their kids like that. Yeah, you gotta have some more stats on that.
I don't think he did research, but I
don't think so. But he's making
he's talking about his friends. I think he's talking about what he sees. Yeah,
I get it, and I see a bunch of Black moms who and let me tell you something. I'm talking about Jubilee from East New York, Brooklyn, that now lives in Maryland. Even in the hood, right? I've seen parents tell their kids off, but then they also at every single open school night looking at these report cards telling their sons and their daughters that they got to pull up, that they got to improve. So for me, that doesn't necessarily discount anything, because I've seen parents like, I'm a bust yo, get these grades up and come here, give mommy a hug, give mommy sugar. So I think some of it is also cultural, where it's not necessarily harmful as he's referring to. So I'll stop there. But
Omar, I don't know if Omar is just off camera or if he's still audio, but when you're ready, Omar, just pop back in. David, what was your thought on what the young man said? I'm gonna come back to you. I didn't know if you were there.
Yeah, that was definitely like heavy to listen to in one take. But I do, like, there are just certain aspects to it that I'm not going to speak to because I'm not African American. I do not come from the African American community. I was not raised in an African American home. However, I do see some elements of having grown up in a Mexican American home and in a Mexican American community that he spoke to, even though he was talking about the Black community. And so I think one thing that he nailed this piece. He's like, it's like, we get to high school, and then you want to see us, the expectation is like we should go to college, and nobody's been paying attention. He didn't even say K-12, he said K-8. So right. he nailed that piece. Like he was like, I don't even care about K-12. He's talking about elementary and middle school, like those like formative years for academic development. We talk about literacy, mathematics, social emotional development. He's like, you can't be asleep at the wheel or not pay attention and then expect for some kind of magical outcome to happen. That's just not fair to people, right? And so so that kind of resonated with me. I think the other piece that resonated was the lack of like male role models, positive role models, right? That happens in the Latino community, the Mexican American community, happens in the African American community. And I think like that's, we can have strong female auntie, mothers, grandmothers, community members, but like young boys need men to look up to. They do. Men that look like them. It's incredibly powerful. It doesn't have to be, your blood. It can be, your community members, people that, live in your community that are connected to your family. But that is such an important thing that he said, because that happens in the Mexican American community too. And I would say in the absence of that, it's no wonder that we gravitate to like the King Vons or the athletes or the influencers like we were talking about, right? It's almost like, he didn't say that we're joining like gangs, right? But he did say that we're going to find validation and connections somewhere. Absolutely. And that's where they find it. And so I'm sure sometimes the messaging is good and positive, but 9 times out of 10, it's trash, and I'm not putting down all rappers or all athletes or all media people, but I'm going to put down a lot of them because they're most of them are not trying to help these people, right? They're there for another reason. Yeah, so awesome. I mean, that was my take on it. Yeah.
And I'm passing the mic to you, but I will take some liberties afterwards to kind of give thoughts, because again, I live this, I work in this, I've published research and books and things about this very thing, and I'm gonna even read a passage from that book from a young person who went through something very similar and what the difference maker was. But go ahead, brother, it's yours.
Can you throw it to me after Omar before you do your piece?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just real quick, just a couple things. So I think from, again, going back into, I don't know anything about this personally. So what can I find? What can I read? What can I associate with my own experience, right? There's already a seismic drop in men going to college. from 47% in 2011 to 42%. I think that disproportionately affects Black men from what I've seen. And then on my end, it got me thinking about a few things, which is like, out of my own personal experience, I found that like teachers, friends, and even my mom has had a significant impact on that messaging of who and what should you go and do. That's a different message. Meaning like, I've had kids come back to me, my students, when I was teaching 7th grade, and be like, the only reason I went to college is because you told me about it. That was the only reason. Like, I didn't get that at home. You were emphatic about it. Like, I was so inspired by you that this was that different message, right? You know, there's a saying in Spanish that says, dime que con quién eres y te digo quién eres. Like, I don't know if you ever heard that, David, when you were growing up. Tell me who you're with, and I'll tell you who you are. That your friends make up a significant proportion, especially when you hit middle school and high school, of your like mental trajectory. So if your friends are in a very similar situation as you're in, where their parents aren't really emphasizing any of that, that's going to go one way. My friends all heard from me and from my mom, and my mom had a magnificently profound impact on not just my friends, but students in El Paso. I mean, shit, man, like, I think Chris Rock joked one time that like he sent more kids to college than the NAACP. My mom actually sent more kids to college from being an influential teacher and head of the Upper Bound program than I think any program has nationally in terms of her statistics. And I think that is the kind of resonating message from someone who sees someone like them, Latina women who sees a Latina like my mom and be like, well, dude, if you did it and you had these circumstances and this is what you've talked about. And that messaging is so emphatic because it does come in that K-8 time, because my man is right about one thing. By high school, it's over. Your brain has already made the decision. In fact, statistically, children will make the decision to go to college in 7th grade. That's because 7th grade, ladies and gentlemen, is that time of puberty. It's that 12 to 13 age. It's my favorite time. It's my favorite time of teaching because there's such a radical shift in the mentality going from adolescence into pubescence, where your mind is shifting. And just one last thing, because I know you all have a lot to say about this. I wanted to give a shout out to my boy Alonzo, who was my student, who said something ludicrously profound, but I want to just reiterate. When you grow up that way, your mind is wired in one way. It's hard to break that cycle because it's all you know and it's how you know how to survive. Dude, that's some very esoteric shit, by the way. If you don't sink your teeth into this comment, it's Don Miguel Ruiz in the Four Agreements talked about this a lot, which is everyone thinks that they have a scope of what the real world is. No, you don't. You have a scope of what your world is. I only have a scope, ladies and gentlemen, of my world, my reality. I can't sit here and make assumptions about everyone else's reality and say, well, why couldn't they do this? I did this. That's ignorant. You grow up in a way that you know nothing about, under circumstances you could never possibly imagine. And it's very hard to rewire such things because that is somebody's world. That is their perception of reality. And to break it is a very difficult proposition, man. So I think I'm just bringing up thoughts. I'd love to hear from Jubilee and Doc on this one, because maybe they can back it up with, yeah, man, here's what's really happening. I'm here to learn, like I said.
Yeah, I'll go after Jube. I'll stay a little later too, just so I can really go into it. The host, they can leave at the regular time if they need to, but whoever can rock, stay rocking. Go ahead, Jube.
And maybe this might be my final thoughts. That way you could wrap us up. But a lot of things. You said a word, Omar, decision, right? And that made me think, right, college is a decision. And if I am, a Black male, which I am not, right? A Black woman who has taught many, many Black males, and I'm raising 2 Black males, right? But if in my K-8, right, or K-12 experience, I have been disproportionately referred to special ed for things such as being jittery or not able to emotionally regulate after experiencing deep trauma, right? Deep loss, deep grief, right? If I am constantly experiencing a workforce of mostly white women, right, who are not teaching in a way that resonates with me, right? If I'm experiencing schools that seem more like prisons, right? If the curriculum is not geared to how males learn, like the school that my son was in before us relocating out here was Eagle Academy, all boys 6 through 12 school. These people had video games as well as lacrosse, chess, basketball, movement, throw the paper in the trash can. And that's how you answer the question, right? Geared towards education for Black males, right? And so it made me think about like college and whether or not it has evolved, right? If it is a decision, right? And a young Black man has spent his K through 12, where he didn't necessarily have a choice, even though you can kind of drop out around 16 or 17. But I had to go to school for K through 8. I had to go to school K through 12. But now I have a choice. Why would I then, subscribe to the foolishness that I just experienced for 15 to 18 years of my life, when nothing that's happening in college is geared towards how I learn? Right, where I am taught that I am not intellectual, that I am not brilliant, that I'm not capable of doing, great things. I don't see anybody who looks like me, and nothing about the college or the collegiate landscape over the past however many years has been changed or has evolved. So yeah, I'm going to look at Gary Vee. I'm going to look at all these people because it's not even responsive. Why isn't college responsive? You know what I'm saying? So I'll stop there. But the point is, if it's a decision and I got to make it, and I didn't have such a grand experience in K-8 or K through 12, then I'm not going to pay for that when I didn't get good stuff for free.
And Jew, fun fact, I did Gary Vee show two times, and Gary went to college, but he does.
I love Gary Vee.
And he talks about this, and he talked about this 10 years ago, that colleges were going to start losing its men. And here's the thing. We don't want to hear from us. We don't want to hear from the Black man that went through it. We dismiss it. And I appreciate our guests. I love when people make comments, and I love it. I want to bring up this comment because I think it's indicative of the issue. And I respect and I love. First off, Nicole's known me for a long time. We met at one of these free seminars that I was doing for Black boys, right? So I love Nicole. Nicole loves me. But I also think anybody compared this perspective to that of young ladies? Why would we? If this conversation was about young Black girls and somebody said, why don't we ask young Black boys? Do you know what would happen socially if that's the thing, right? If we find every way to not engage with these people and what their needs are, it's different. It's very, very different. My father was the person driving that when I was in school. He was the disciplinarian in school stuff. My mother she came to the school a few times, but my father was the one that set that tone. He was the one that did that. In this book, one of the boys from Brooklyn, from Canarsie, he was from Canarsie. His mother was an immigrant from the islands. Her and her husband got divorced, but her lawyer, one of their friends, he was a lawyer. And his mother asked if he could have dinner with them on a regular basis. And he did. You know what that boy ended up becoming? He ended up getting his JD and becoming an attorney because he sat at that table with that man, and that man was setting a different type of tone for him, and he modeled something different for him. You want to know another reason why? It's because when I came home from college and my homie came home from the army, and our other homie came out of jail for selling dope, guess who got the most love? Guess who got the most girls? Guess who got the most attention? And think about all girls that went to college. Think about your bad boy phase. Think about you wanting to date what you wanted to date at the time. And you don't think boys see that? You think these boys just like not getting female attention? Like you think that, so I need some bread to get some attention. Again, the young man said, you can be a lady and not have money and still socially you're looked at very differently. If you're a man and you pull out a coupon, you are looked at socially in a lot of different ways. And again, there is some glaring data here. When you talk about, we can pull up what single mother numbers are, and this is not bashing anybody. It's like looking at what the numbers are. We are the group with the most single parents. When you look at like these literacy rates, when you look at how these schools treat people, I was trying to get two of our Black male people from Energy Converters to join. Two of them are graduating college right now. They're student teachers and they're going into ed school next year to become teachers. You know what both those young men said? They said, I'm already being socialized that these Black kids are stupid. And I kind of don't want to be a teacher no more. Because why? And Sharif said that, why do these young men, why would they return to the scene of the crime? And like Jubilee said, if I just got out of high school, why would I then go back to another structure that doesn't love or respect me or want to hear what I got to say? And and by the way, no girl is going to date me or give me no action because I ain't got no money. So if we're going to have these conversations, we got to have them. and we got to really be willing to engage with them. And again, this is not something new. I've been doing work around this for 15, 20 years. I talked about this. One of those young men hosts a show to keep Black boys in college, to get Black males in college. And so it's a tough conversation. It's a tough pill to swallow. And I get the white supremacy thing. I get that. I get that we've been conditioned and all that. But I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk about what's happening with us. And like, it's not our fault that it happened, but it's our responsibility if we want to fix it, because we're the only ones that can fix it. And again, I know in the brown community, they're having their own similar conversations. I know that the socialization is what it is, and a lot of Hispanic male numbers are dropping as well. If there were no Black people, this show would be about brown boys leaving school and why they're leaving. And I think that you all can talk about it. You know, Omar, from where you come from, like what if you have a parent that went to college versus if not, right? I don't know what the message, you talked about the messaging that you got, from where you came from in that college family. David, I don't know what your messages were from, like, you know, from your family, right? So again, are we gonna have that real conversation and engage? So I know that was a little long. I know people might want to have to jet or whatever, but if people want to stick around, like even the crowd, I can stand and have these conversations, because I will take all smoke. And this topic, I will take all smoke because I think that young man was super profound. And the way he summarily dismissed was just showing me that the problem is exactly what he said it was. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. Your last comments got me thinking about so we're talking about, like, this conversation started based off of some college data that you've put together, but you know, you go back to like high school and in some cases even middle school, and we've all lived examples of what this is like. Like, what do you want to stay in school, or you then have the comparison to this person, maybe your friend, that dropped out in the 10th grade and is still in the neighborhood, has their own car, you know, has money, has girls, is seemingly off to their adult life of success, especially in that like young 14, 15, 16-year-old brain, right? The male brain, because those are the things that are like, I mean, that's kind of like, you know, you're attracted to that, right? And it starts very early. And I think the challenge is, you know, and we used to talk to this. We used to talk to our young people when I was at the high school, was like, these decisions that you're going to make right now in this next 2 to 3 years are going to determine the kind of life that you're going to have for, like, you know, the next, if you're lucky, 60-year period, right? You're going to live to be like 80, maybe 75, whatever. So these decisions that you make now, if you're not thinking long-term, if you're thinking short-term, you will definitely learn about the law of diminishing returns, because you're going to see it, right? You're going to burn out. You're going to crash out. I'm even talking about people that go directly into like low-skilled, like manual labor. Like that stuff damages your body, right? Not even talking about, you know, going off into a life of crime or engaging in gang lifestyle with the threats of like violence and jail and death, all that stuff. But I think and that's where the role model piece comes in, because you have somebody with lived experience who can say, like, how do you want to live your life? And granted, it's hard for a young person with that developing brain to like sit down and actually like think about, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let me think about the long game, when, you know, your brain is about like, well, really what's right in front of you right now. Like, that's like pushing up against gravity, you know?
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, most humans don't think about the long game, David. And like, I could tell you from psychology to Warren Buffett, who talks about investments, people do not think about the long game at all. And when you're young, it is exceptionally hard. And I know I got to go at about 5 after, so this kind of will be my final thought. But I got left with a couple of questions, and I really appreciate the comment from Nicole, which is like, what's the female perspective on this? I'd like to hear it. So huge thanks to the audience for sharing their comments, because I think that's an
Omar,
important perspective.
I want you to finish.
Yeah.
Don't lose it. But the next time if there's a topic about black girls or brown girls, and I want you to go ahead and say, all right, now let's get the perspective of the boys. I just want you to do that. I'm just continue. I get it. We got to do this as brothers. I'm just saying. I would love to hear that.
I'm with you, because then we always get shit on. But trust me, I'm raised by women. I'm always fascinated by the balanced perspective of everything. But I will catch a little smoke for a comment I'm about to make, and not necessarily about boys, but about people. I had 2 questions leaving, and Doc, you answered one of them with your book, but one question is like, what will get them there and what will make them stay there? Meaning, what will get young black men to college? What will get them to stay there? And I think that what will get them there is something that I'm really fascinated in thinking about, because David's so right about so many components of just the societal pressures to go out, make money. Right now, the idea of young men going out and just trying to be like flashy and showy is something that I see in my own schools. Just them being like, I got to go out, I got to make money. I got to make money, not just for my kids, or excuse me, for my family, but honestly, to get women. And I got to tell you, dude, there's a buddy of mine. I'll make him nameless, but he's a really cool guy. He owns bars in El Paso. And he and I were talking one day just from a business perspective. And I, looked at his brand new bar. My boy Retta and I were there because Retta was doing architectural stuff. I was doing some consulting. And I was like, who's your demographic? Like, you opened up an LA style kind of cool party club here in El Paso. Like, I'm not going to come to this. I'm too old for this. I wouldn't have come to this kind of cheese dick place in my 30s. No offense to my boy. He's like, bro, you have no idea. I got 20-year-olds coming in here, like 21, 22, 23, like young 20s who live with their parents, don't have to pay rent. Their only bill is their car payment, and they're dropping $500, $600 in tabs just to impress women. Buying $300 bottles of like Ace champagne.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Ace champagne
Bottle.
dog shit. Yeah,
bottle
like
service culture
with Rockets. And it is impressive to me to be like, here are the things we're battling against. Kind of like last show, we were talking about kids battling against cigarette ads and vape ads. I'm like, man, they're dealing with some heavy shit. But I will say this, and I may drop a little bit of smoke, but I'm happy to, because I like science, and I'm a particular snob when it comes to studies that come out of my university. Harold Dweck, Stanford University. Everyone's heard about the studies that have been done, and the growing brain, and the growth mindset. The crux of the book was really that, neurologically speaking, your brain is growing until you're 25 years old. And I think something that is so important to me about kids going to college that impacted me, that impacted everyone else, is that at a very susceptible age, when your brain is growing at exponential rates, continuing your education is feeding it. So unless you're Goodwill Hunting, unless you're doing voracious levels of reading, you're stunting your mental growth if you decide to stop after 8th grade, after high school. And that isn't an opinion, that's just fact. And that worries me, because when you don't have an educated population, you have the fascism that you see going on to today's society. Yeah. Who overwhelmingly voted for Trump? The uneducated. Did we shit on the uneducated? Absolutely not. That's why I'm an educator. But can I factually say that, hey man, you missed out on some severe brain growth in those 7 years? Yes, I fucking can. Because someone should fucking say it, and someone should talk facts and science in a realm and a world of bullshit, snake peddlers, and opinions instead of science. And that's really the crux of Dan, I'd love to learn more, because I'd love those questions answered for me. What will get them there, and what will get them to stay there?
Now, this is the alpha male energy that I like. Can I ask you? Can I ask you a quick question about your? You talked about being with an associate of yours, and then a friend who was opening bars in the El Paso area.
Yeah.
And you were consulting. Were you consulting? Were you doing quality control on their products at the bar? Is that what you were doing?
No, my father was a really impressive restaurant owner. And I know restaurant business and bar business like the back of my head because I grew up amongst it. He opened a place called La Fogata back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I was just there to hang out, but I was just trying to figure, like, I asked questions like, what's your demographic? What's your business model? Who are you going after? And it was shocking to me to hear that these young men were dropping just, dude, these are young men that are like, yeah, man, I'm not going to pay for college. But you dropped $500, $700, $1,000 in one night at a bar to impress a woman when I think it costs something like $150 for, 3 to 5 credits at community college.
Yeah, but I don't listen. That's the whole thing, right? Like, I want instant gratification. Like, my whole life can't be a struggle. And I'm not saying it makes sense, but like everything else is a struggle. I need something that's a stress relief and not a struggle where I can get results. So I'm chiming in because you got my brain going. Because you talked about this piece right here that you're talking about in terms of, do I go and invest, long term? And my question is, can I do that here? Can I do that at home? Can I do that in my hood and successfully manage both? And then I started thinking about the movie Rob Peace. Did y'all see the movie Rob Peace? The Yale, he's a Yale drug dealer at Yale. You should watch it. It's on Netflix. Rob Peace.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Gets accepted to Yale. He sells drugs, and then you'll see it.
It's based on a true story, right? Yeah,
it is a true story.
Okay.
It is a true story, and it's the articles you can also find online as well. But it's just got me thinking about what I lost my train of thought.
You're talking about
instant gratification.
In the neighborhood, instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The idea of instant gratification. Come back to me because I forgot exactly what I was.
So I appreciate that, and I know people that got to go ahead and hop off if you need to, as you need to. I think here's what I would also say. Is like, I've gotten hundreds of black males in and through college, hundreds. Let me tell you how I did it. One, I showed them, I made sure they saw versions of themselves reflected that actually reflect them culturally. And and again, I'm not talking about anybody's lifestyle choice, anything like that, but they have to see things that represent them culturally. We would do school visits. When I planned those school visits during rush week, I wanted them to see the girls lined up for the sororities and the fraternity cats, and I wanted to see them getting people and all that stuff and seeing that they see versions of themselves reflected there. The other thing that we did that I would advocate for is on those campuses, you have to have strong representations of those young men there. And you have to be willing to engage them in conversations that might be uncomfortable for other people, including the women in those spaces and in those rooms, because nobody wants to always have to be ostracized for their thoughts or the things that they're thinking about. And we've had these conversations about these white kids, these white boys that are looking at the Andrew Tates and things like that of the world as well, right? Like, we got to actually address this and stop just, we're just good at ducking accountability, man. And we're good at like passing it. Well, it got to be white supremacy. And it's true. It got to be poverty. All those things are true. And so what? And what? Do we want to fix the problem, or do we want us to just not be responsible for the problem? And again, somebody said, well, we got to get these other perspectives, and I get it. So am I qualified as a black man that went through it? Am I qualified as a black man that grew up in the crack epidemic? Am I qualified as a black man that went and got 4 different degrees? Am I qualified as a black man that researched this as a doctor? Am I qualified as a person who has gotten kids in and through this? Am I qualified as somebody that's been talking to people for 20 years about this thing?
Yes.
I got you, Drew. I'm gonna throw it to you. But I'm just saying, when we have all that, and I can still be ignored or still be looked past, or the things that we're saying, or the things this young black man is saying, and it lines up. I don't know that brother. He don't know me. But damn, the things you saying in this book sound just like the things that this young man is saying. And the first response is like, I need some more. I need to hear from some more people. And what's happening is people are looking for things that agree with them, that make them not the issue. instead of saying, well, damn, this is jacked up. How do we fix it? How do we get to that space? Go ahead, Jude.
I forgot again.
Write it down.
Write it down.
I remembered it.
Okay.
Because Dave and Omar talked about like young people not thinking about like the long game, you know, a long term. And I actually disagree, because I think Black men, right? Black men are born as Black babies, black minis, Black toddlers, Black boys, Black adolescents, and they're born with dreams. They have dreams. They have aspirations. Like, you hear a kid that has not been tainted by society or anyone's, you know, poor thinking or negative thinking about them. I want to be an astronaut when I grow home. Like, we hear some of the things that think is absolutely astronomical, but the Black male is born as a young man with dreams, right? Society and all these different things, right? Community things, family dynamics, right? School experiences, to all take their shot at trying to stifle and quiet and extinguish the dream. But I think it's always there, right? And I think, like, to Charles's point, yes, to answer your question, yes, I think you're, you know, more than qualified to speak on it. And anybody who's gotten a Black male to do anything successful in this world, right? Whether it is that you went to college, you went the CTE route, right? You went to trade school, you became an entrepreneur, whatever it is, there's a pathway. And we know that it has to do with the community and all of the different ways that you can see hard things, successful things being done wherever you live and spend most of your time. So I actually think the dreams do exist, and I think young kids do think about the long term. They do think about the future, and it's our responsibility to help them usher that and bring it to fruition. Yeah. Especially in a world where Black voices, Black male voices especially, are usually extinguished and diminished.
Yeah.
And I know, because I'm a Black mama with 2 Black boys, and I be fighting with these people at their school every damn day.
And Dave, I know I'm trying to share the mic better, but I know I need to be speaking more on this topic. I mean, the other thing that the young man said that I wanted to address was about us being a threat and being seen as a different type of threat. I've been pulled over damn near 14 times in my life. I've had guns pulled on me, being pulled over. I think, have I ever showed y'all that video where I taped the guy and he said, because of my cologne, and he thought that I will share it. I will share it with you. I have the full audio, and I taped it and put it on the internet because people would not believe the story, right? Or when I got my company, I do bring my family. I do bring my people along. David is one of the first people. When I got a contract, hey, man, David looked out for me. I remember that dude. He's brilliant. We used to get in the same type of trouble, and he was there with me from the gate. So, yeah, I want to work with David because he's brilliant. I want to work with my homie Kamar. I'm definitely bringing, and when we do those reports, I say, David, lean into this part, man. This is you. Like, make this work for you and for your family. Hey, Kamar, we doing this report. Hey, man, bring in these other people that we read. Talk about this from your perspective as an intelligent, smart Black man, right? Like, these things are there, and this internet has turned our people against each other. Online, all you see is Black men versus Black women. And in my real life, that's not how I operate. That's just not the women in my life I would die for. I would. That don't make me perfect or anything like that. But you don't see other races as often, their women talking about their men in the same way, or their men talking about their women in the same fashion. You just don't. There is no the way, and this is what we were talking about when me and Omar were getting on the Democrats. Democrats were banking on white women going against their husband and household when they voted. Now, woman, why would you think that? While at the same time wagging the finger at Black men about who they should be voting for and how they should be voting. And I know this stuff happens in brown communities as well. So, David, I'm not trying to I know I'm taking up, like I said, a lot of space, and I'm making it very black people centric, but you know, just from there's gonna be conversations you got to have with your boy. And I don't know the role that you and your wife play in the house with him around education, but I know you're an educator, and I know you. It's probably similar messaging coming from you to him that came from my father to me. So just from that perspective, what are the type of conversations you have with your son, you know, versus, you know what I'm saying? I'm just curious. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I think the conversations we have are very real and very, very honest. Like I don't know if it's based on like his development or the conversations that we started having years ago, but he picks up on a lot of things that are happening in society, and he's able to like articulate, kind of what he's saying. But the one thing that I think where we do have this kind of crossover experience is, I mean, not even just being, I mean, there's definitely like, the threat that brown men pose in 2025, right? We're seeing it with the, all the stuff that's happening with the Venezuelan gangs and the MS-13, and just like how all this stuff is pushed out there. And you know who looks like those people? I do. My son does. So I'm like, you're gonna have to deal with people coming at you in all different ways based on just how you look before you can even like have a conversation with them. I mean, I'm a grown man. It happens to me every day. And I have to be, we have to be very conscientious about where we are, when we're there, who's around. I mean, even to this day, when I go into a room, when I go into any kind of a facility, like first thing I do is like scout out the facility, and I always want to know where the exit is. It's like hardwired into my brain in case some shit goes down, even though I might be like at a funders meeting. I'm like, I don't know. Something might go down. I got to know how to get out of here. I'm sitting by the door, so I think, it's, and then there's definitely
talking down at Charles when we're in Florida and somebody steals my headphones and I have an address. or stepping into that moment, right? Like,
like, we're not doing that. Yeah. We'll get you some new headphones. So I think, and then there's definitely like the male component of it too. Just it's tough. I mean, I think I appreciate this topic because we're definitely going through this. There's been an incredible amount of like focus on girls, on brown girls, on Black girls. And I think we haven't had enough conversations about Black men and brown men, and Black boys and brown boys. And my biggest, and I'm going to finish with this, and I've got to leave, but I think
I'm gonna let y'all
tied
go.
to like what we talked about, tied to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Well, tied about what we talked about a couple of weeks ago is like starting with this show, like you started with one statistic, right? And so my concern in this moment is with the dismantling of the Department of Education and DEI programs and programs that are based on, these programs are not based on like lowering the floor. They're based on raising and lifting all boats. And when we start to lose this data, that's very important. So we can have these conversations. Like that's where I'm thinking next. I'm like, oh, wow, what if we didn't even have this data, So I'm glad we have it now, but I hope whatever happens at this federal level, with funding and the Department of Education, we still have access to this information, because it's easy for people to not want to have it because they don't want to look at the problem.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what's up, man. David, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your insight and your wisdom. Jubilee, if it's up to you. I'm it might be a good dynamic of the Black boy and the Black girl having this conversation.
Let's do it.
But yeah, I just think I'm glad.
Peace. I appreciate the two of you.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate you too, man. And I'm glad. I'm not glad why we have to have this conversation, but I'm glad that the numbers are so glaring that it forces a confrontation about what we want to see. And I've spent time on college campuses. I think there is something to the feminization of certain things and certain spaces, which I think is good. But if it erodes this other space where people, where your masculine presenting Black boys are not feeling comfortable in those spaces, or the language has to be very different, or things like that, and everything about them is bad, or they're always spoken to as an issue, like their existence is a problem. Why would you? And now with the exorbitant cost of colleges and the drop in quality, why would they? And the girl, and I went to college, and you went to school too. Like I'm not gonna ask you about you, but we know you. There's girlfriends that you had that was the good college girl, and she was dating the cat from around the way. Like, if we gonna have these conversations, Like, we gotta really, really, really have them. And I think this is leading us to really have those conversations. I don't know everything, but it is something that I've lived and that I've spoken to, and it's gotten shot down the vast majority. Like, people can say, why ain't nobody talking about this? Why ain't nobody doing this or whatever? I just showed you multiple books, most of them free, that I wrote about this stuff or how we do it. And again, the data says a father figure. So just because you might be divorced from your husband, or that guy might have left, or whatever the case is, like, yo, this lady found somebody and was like, hey, I'm going to do everything I can as a mother. I'm going to take him to free libraries and to museums. We're going to work it out. But he has to be around successful Black men. He has to be. He has to see it. He has to see how they operate unfiltered. He has to see what this looks like, because it's hard to replicate or move something forward when you can't see it.
I mean, I think that's something that we should talk about too, right? Because single Black mom, I don't know if I told you, I started my own show on YouTube called Morning Cup of Jubilee on It's Jubilee TV.
That's what you got to promote that thing. Do a commercial.
Yes.
Start running it. Do it.
Yes, I will definitely. I'll drop it in the chat. But
if you ever need a guest, I will gladly come. I don't know if your people want to hear from me, but I got you.
Yes, we're gonna talk about your morning routines, how you stay all zen and calm, and Jubilee kind of stuff.
All right.
The color yellow. But when you said mentorship, right? Like, I really admire what you're doing, and your claim on just your experience of not just mentoring but supporting Black young men, getting them in and through college. Like, that's a whole thing, right? And I do think it's interesting, like, we've had these conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I do think that our Black boys are the silent group, right? Or the group that we're most silent about, that we could easily just move on. Because now it's like, girl power, pay attention, right? But because it's like, nah, because if you're a Black boy, you probably don't know how to read. You ain't got no you don't got no dreams, or you don't got no initiative. You probably just like basketball, right? Like, all these stereotypes, right? That maybe we're the coolest and we got swag as young Black men, but we don't have intellect, intelligence, and aspirations, or all of that. So you kind of get skipped to the side. And when thinking about even how schools looked at equity, it was like, all right, let's look at your SPED data. We just want to make sure it's not disproportionately, Black males, right? But then after you found that out, what'd you do about it, right? And so that's one. And I know I jumped, but back to the mentorship. It's hard out here for a single mom to find mentors, consistent mentors. Now, speaking personally, I have my dad. I have brothers. I have brothers in love, right? But we live 286 miles away. So then it's okay. Is there a teacher at school who is a Black male? Which now it went from 2% educators to 1% Black male educators in our country. So that you might not have, right? Then you have the people at church who might want to reach out and be like, oh, I want to mentor them, but it starts and then it's like, it's not consistent. So let's talk about mentorship. I think that is part of the process to getting a young Black man to college, right? And to doing great things. But I also think it's hard to find, it's far and few between. And I don't know that we have enough Black men doing what you are doing.
I mean, and it's difficult. And I think that, like, it's not really lucrative. That's I always, people like, yo, I have my nonprofit, but I have my LLC. Like, I have, and I think one of the things that I do that appeals to young men is it's like, yo, we're going to talk about the importance of school and what that means and all that stuff for your development. But also, here's this entrepreneurial thing, or here's how I did it. Here is how you build yourself at the same time. And I think those things are valuable. Nobody ever really asks, like, well, why do these boys love sports? Because sports are structured, and it's about how good you are, and you get praised for that. And it doesn't really matter. There's like, if you suck, you're not playing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, once you get into high school where you don't have to get minutes, like, you get rewarded for your efforts in that way. And I think that some of those things need to come back. We've gotten rid of a lot of stuff under the guise of toxic masculinity per se. And some of this stuff is boys need to move around. They need to
move.
They need these things. Yes. And not every boy the same way, not every girl, but there's different societal weights that come into play. And we have to have those conversations in ways where when you don't hear what you want to hear, it doesn't turn into where you hate women or you hate these people or you hate yourself. It's like, nah, man, the same way I need to listen when my mother and grandmother were talking about things that they went through as women, I shut up and I listen. When Jubilee is talking about what she feels as a Black woman, hey man, go ahead, like get that off.
Yeah.
But we don't have that same space.
Yeah.
And I would say this, and I know this might be controversial. We don't provide that same space. I won't just say straight Black boys. I'll say masculine presenting Black boys. Because I think you could be gay, but if you are like the traditional masculine presenting, you get lumped in with the straight cats or whatever.
Yeah. And then you labeled.
And if you reject some of the feminization or the more effeminate nature that has been taking place in college campuses and on social media and things like that over the last few years, you've been ostracized. You've been called toxic. And again, people, they might not speak up. They might not say nothing, but they vote with their feet. They vote by going to do something else. Or they become, you can't tell me that boy that was talking would not light up a Harvard, a Howard, a NYU. Like he needs to be in a lecture hall, being able to go and process these type of thoughts. Who knows what that young, and he still can do a lot of this stuff without college. I'm not saying he can't, but colleges are missing out because that level of deep thought and articulation is sorely missing. I this is a long-winded, but I'll end on this part and throw it back to you just for any questions or to keep the conversation going. I did a TikTok earlier and I said, man, you know, one of the things racism messed up, the term articulate. Like,
oh Lord.
Like, and I said, listen, I am somebody who speaks for a living. Articulation makes me money, and it's very difficult to express an emotion or a thought in a nuanced, clear way. And we have allowed whiteness or racism or the fear of racism or everything being racist to make us offended because a few racist people were surprised when Black people spoke well and said, oh, you speak so well, you're really articulate. But it's hard to be articulate. It's very difficult. And I hate that that's become a misnomer. I hate that that's got a negativity attached to it because what we're doing right now is difficult. It's difficult to have a fair, balanced, yet nuanced conversation in this vein. And we Black people, it's just me and Jubilee. Now it's just us. We know that whiteness exists. We know that other races exist. I ain't talking about none of that. I'm talking about us right here. Yep. How do we, for our community, for our people, for people that we proclaim to love and care about, we have to start being serious adults again.
Yeah.
And we got to start running from that. Just because some white man says yes, queen, you think that's an ally, but when men in my community see that, we be like, oh, he is trying to play you because niggas don't talk like this.
Yes. And we didn't need, I mean, I get it. I said this a couple episodes ago. Like I think over the past 50 years, we got all excited with the legislation being passed and all this kind of stuff. When again, the hearts of people never change. And I just feel like as a Black community, I mean, I'm sure that those things helped and maybe they allowed us to enter spaces that we otherwise wouldn't have entered. But I think we should have always kept what we grew, what was homegrown, grassroots, and continue to push and have these conversations. Because first and foremost, I'm not going to blame, the white man or white supremacy or any entity in that realm more than I would, and I don't want to say blame, but more than I would hold us accountable for why we stopped asking questions about our own. When we realized Johnny was struggling, Johnny couldn't read, right? Johnny was acting out because he saw his brother jump off a bridge or something like that. Like, why weren't we experiencing or enacting that spirit of urgency for our young Black men? Right. And it is still happening, right? Like one of my colleagues was expressing, a Black young man, they got an email, somebody was killed over the weekend. What they didn't know was that it was her student. And guess what? 15 years old, 25 to life. Mm-hmm. When will we see him again? Right. But there were markers, there were maybe some conversations that weren't had. And I get it. We could turn around and be like, Black mothers, you need to do more. And I think everybody could do more, but I do think that there are some conversations we have allowed to be thrown to the wayside. And I think that our Black boys are the ones that are unaccounted for in the group chat.
Man, listen. So even in this book, right, people ask for it. There's 3 stories of 3 Black boys who become doctors, and they all grew up impacted by the crack epidemic. But in research, you kind of use pseudonyms. The pseudonyms I chose were 3 brothers that I grew up with. One was a cousin, 2 are really good friends. 2 of them are dead, and 1 is a predicate felon. And the variance between death and life was very, 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 very small. Very small. And that's what we're talking about, right? And I think that is that this hits home in a type of way, because again, I let people have their space. I might interject, I can argue, I can do whatever, but you know, for the most part, I'm like, man, let these people have their spaces. But as I saw this topic come and I saw who were the domineering voices and what they were saying and spewing, and like it was everybody's fault. Everybody had blood on their hands but them. And my thing is, the blood is on all of our hands. It's on all of it. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Well, them men left, cool. Hey, got you. Or these boys decide to do this. Okay, cool, got you. But if we're going to be a community, we got to be a community. We got to like actually listen to these people.
Yes.
And that's where things are. And that's why anytime I see a sister or a grandmother or a grandfather or somebody that's like, you know, got like Black boys, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, yo, how can I help? What do I need? Because I know what's at stake. Like, I know what's happening. And I know you might be doing the best you can, but a closed door conversation with me or another man or whatever is going to be different. It's just going to be different.
It is.
And I think kids needs both. You need both. You need both. Like I need the same way this podcast needs. When Jubilee joined this podcast, it added a new layer. It added something. It added somebody who's caring about all of us and our well-being. It brought in a feminine energy that men also needed to be added to this conversation. Now, I also had a show called 8 Black Hands, which was 4 Black men, and you need those spaces as well, right? But when you bring it together, there's a beautiful space that's there and that has to be created. And ain't nobody else gonna save our people in our communities except for us. And I hear like, it sounds like a lot of people want to throw our people away, but I ain't gonna try to hold you all night, Jude. I'm letting you kind of steer. If there's another topic or a question or something that you want to engage me on or have me engage you on, please
what can we do? Like where can we start? I think as a Black, woman, and I think that nobody can replace the Black man. Let's start there. His wisdom, his stature, his presence. I think it's necessary, and I think we understand why the young man was like, Black men are targets because of what they're able to, bring to our world and to our family structure and all of that. I also think as Black women, right, and I'm not speaking for all, right?
I got you.
People send the smoke if you want smoke.
But I think you talking. Ain't nobody else here. Talk to me.
I think that in many ways, right, because we get our degrees and we get, and I'm independent, and I think sometimes that we choose to quench the voice of the Black man, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know who's still on that, watched the video earlier, but the gentleman was kind of alluding to that, right? That even if the gentleman is not in the home, right? The father's not in the home, just even the way that we refer, like you tell me I look like my damn daddy, and you don't never say nothing good about Joe, then I'm gonna take that on, and that's gonna become part of my identity, that I don't think I'm no good either, because you say I look like my daddy, I act like him, right? So I think even before, and I hear what Toya is saying, because you know how I feel about literacy, but even before we get to the schoolhouse, even before we get to 3rd grade literacy, we're talking about self-identity and whether or not I see myself as a beautiful, powerful, capable, like resilient creature, on this earth, whether or not I feel like I personally have capacity, right? And so I ain't no psychologist, but I know that plays a part, and how I see myself also determines how I learn and my success with learning, So I guess I said all that to say, like, where do we begin, and how do we like begin to have these conversations and forge partnerships, to your earlier point, where we are talking not at each other, but with one another for the sake of our community and generations to come.
Man, I listen, and not to keep doing this, but again, I have dedicated, my life in a lot of ways to this stuff. And when you here's from a different book that's also absolutely free, the Agentic Black Parent. I tell people, start with this questionnaire. Like, look at your child and like, do you know what makes? Let me not say child. Let me say your Black boy. Do you know what makes your Black boy smile? Do you know what settings bring out the best in him? Do you know who are the people that he admires? Like, do you know what he's good at? What motivates him? And what type of environments is he most productive? How does my Black child take in information? What upsets him? Like, how does my child respond when frustrated, and why what are some triggers for him? And then picture, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do we want his life to look like 20 years from now? And be vivid. Like, what type of husband do you want him to be? What type of father do you want him to be? What type of job? Do you want him to be in shape? Well, if that's 20 years from now, then what needs to be true 10 years from now? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had it up on the screen. My bad.
This is really good stuff.
Yeah. Like here, I'll go back up. Right. Like, I had these it's free. Like, what makes them smile? Take child out and do Black boy. What are all the things that my Black boy is good at? Do I tell him that he's good at it? What motivates him? Right? Like, when I'm mad at his father, how does that come out in front of him? Right? Or like, then we take those answers. Like, in 20 years, be very, very vivid. Envision it. Like, picture him in his happiest moment, and like to the point where where you can feel what the weather is like. Then, okay, if that's the case, let's reverse engineer. Well, if that's going to be true in 20 years, what needs to be true in 10? What needs to be true in 5? What needs to be true in 2? Does college play a role in that? Okay, if college plays a role, then what are we doing in that? How are we making that happen? If you got a father at home, how is he, engaged, or a grandfather? And if you don't, well, what's my plan to find a group, a bunch of them, and put them in proximity of that? I will deal with the adult stuff. That's the other thing. Am I making my child have to be a man earlier than he needs to be a man in my household? Is he my surrogate boyfriend? I started my career as a social worker.
That's good.
And I see this, right? And I saw a lot of different things. A lot of times I saw a lot of these moms treat their son like that was their man. And it's like, that's not your man. And that's not your that's not your boyfriend. That ain't your, that ain't your shopping buddy per se. Like, do cool shit with your kid. Yes, but what I'm saying is we have who's most in prisons, who's most illiterate, who's most not going to these schools. Like, these boys are in crisis. And when the topic of them comes up, don't then be like, look, when we having a Black conversation, we can have it everybody. When we having a girl conversation, it should be about Black girls. So when we do this about Black boys, let it be about Black boys.
Indeed.
And I think that's a start, right? And I think you're in an interesting situation and perfect for this conversation, because you only have 2 Black boys. You don't have a girl. I'm sorry that you don't have your girl. But you don't have a girl, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and again, and this is also for the fellas, for the men. My father is very different with my baby sister. And me and my brother, I remember my sister did something happened, and this man became the most sensitive, patient man. And I know me and my brother was like, who is this nigga? I've never seen this. Who are you, dude? Wait, oh, my princess can, hey, she can, hey, fellas, what your, hey, man, 18 coming, what's the plan with her? Baby, you can stay here as long as you want. What are we doing? What do you need? My sister right now, listen, my sister will take care. She is going to be the person that takes care of my parents. It is not a question. She's very Jubilee-ish. Like, my father can do no wrong to her, and to her. And my mom don't buy none of that shit. I just want you to know the dynamic between mothers and daughters is very different. You know what I'm saying? But like this is what I'm saying, right? We have different kids need different things, and not all Black boys are not the same. All Black girls are not the same. We're not somebody's gonna put that in the comments. Well, people are different. Got you. Got it. But we're talking about what we're talking about, and we don't need to infiltrate those spaces. Let those spaces happen. And encourage them. That would be my first. And if you do make a mistake, which we all make mistakes, you don't have to be You don't have to be perfect. Like, you will be frustrated. But if I said something that was crazy, like if I had a daughter and it was just me and her mama got on my nerves and I'm just in the car and I'm just like, I can't stand this, bro. Like, bro, you got to double back and be like, that was wrong. That was wrong. I do not need to, I will never talk about your mother like that in front of you. Like, it's not okay. And I think that also needs to happen because a lot of women are hurting. They're hurting because of what happened in those relationships. Absolutely. And when that boy does look just like that man, I've seen it. I've seen it over and over. I've been in schools and I've seen a mother berate her boy and tell him, you're going to be just like your damn daddy in front of us at a school. And she wasn't trying to be mean. She was hurt. And I can understand it. You know what I'm saying? But like, that's the message that the boy was talking about. I know I got to let you go, Jupe. You got to go do you got to go live your life.
I mean, I'm good, but I feel like we need either a part 2 or like a check-in. Like, I don't know, a black male check-in every like 4 to 6 weeks or something. Like, how are they doing? I know we asked like how the children are doing, but like, I feel like we should really ask how our black boys are doing.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. And we got to stop looking at education and being smart as a feminine thing. Like as a you know what I'm saying? We gotta, we gotta stop doing that. And thank you so much, Dr. Warren. And thank you to Toya and to Nicole and to Alonzo and everybody that tunes in. Please share it and comment. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing it. And like, again, if you actually have questions, I'm even down for this. Yeah. For Ms. Toya, for Dr. Warren, for Nicole, especially Nicole, right? Because I think Nicole has some good points that would counter. If you want to have this conversation in this space, let's do it. Thank you, Ms. Georgia, for being here as well. I know it's your mama. I know it's your mommy. How you doing, Ms. Hanson? Your daughter gives me a hard time all the time. Can you talk to her about it?
He's a black son too, so I'm just saying.
I'm gonna tell on you. You know what I'm saying? Miss Georgia can come on this show too. If y'all want to have that conversation here, let's do it because that's the only way we gotta. That's the way we gotta start. Yeah. And I'm
let's
with
take
it,
some ownership. Like, the world is gonna world, and the things are gonna
absolutely. Racism gonna racist. You know what I'm saying?
They're gonna do the things, but I'm just like, what do you do when you see a young black man in the supermarket? What do you see when he's walking past you? Like, I just feel like there's little things that we can do as a community to let them know, hey, we riding for you. We believe in you. Look, I see you. You know how many black boys walk around every day and just think nobody sees them, nobody cares. Like, even at school, they like, take your hoodie off, put your phone away. They don't even care about nothing else.
And here's the thing. And don't be offended when it's suspicious to us at first, right? Because we're not used to it. And I was raised by my grandmother till she died, Toya, so we can definitely do that. My company is named after her. The book says, Ozetta's grandbaby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, I'm very, very much. But here's the thing. Grandmothers are different because they lived a different life. They've made the mistakes with their own kids. So they're in a different space. You know what I'm saying? So I think but that's what I'm saying though, right? Like, if we're gonna do this, because here's the thing, and logically I understand this. When we talk about all this stuff, we talk about how a black mom may talk to her black son in the supermarket or the school. If the first response is white supremacy, now listen, intellectually, I can make that connection. Yeah, I can make it. But if that's the first response, that is not us. Like, taking accountability for what we need to do to kind of improve that, because these kids have been socialized in a different way. When you are 13, the cops do not see you as a 13-year-old. They see you as a young man, a dangerous man. When Trayvon Martin was killed, he was seen as a threat, and his fists were called weapons, and the concrete was called weapons, man. And again, when we talk about the danger, we're not saying that black women are not in danger of a lot, and there's a lot of things that black women endure, and I hate it. And I hate that they do. But don't dismiss when it's like, and I've had guns pulled on me. Like, I've been pulled over, and I'll share with you after this Jubilee. And if you want, I'll share with the whole people later on, where I get pulled over and this man has his hand on his gun and he brings dog cops because I was in a nice car and he didn't believe that I could be a doctor and a writer on the speaking tour.
Insane. Insane.
That man was nervous the whole time. He could have shot me. So anyway, and it's not about woe is me, because again, I'm socialized that pain that I may have or have felt, it doesn't matter. And it is, I deal with that however I deal with it. But I'm not here from a painful place. I'm here in a place of love. And any of y'all, like whether it's you, Jubilee, whether it's been Nicole, whether it's Dr. Warren, whether it's Toya, anybody that needs it. If you got one of them black kids, I will drop everything and do what I can to be supportive of those people. So those are my final thoughts. But Jubilee, how about you take us out? And thank you for spending extra time with us.
Yeah, of course. This was great. Let's do this again. Jubilee and Charles after dark on South Star.
I'm with you. Well, listen, me and Omar has done the little political spinoff, so we can, right. It's a precedent. We can do that.
I mean, I'm down with it. I'm just grateful for this topic. I do think it needs to be ongoing. I think we have a crisis on our hands, but I don't think it's insurmountable. I think we need to look at what the data is saying, look at what the trends are saying, listen to Black boys, Black teens, Black adolescents, Black young adults, Black men, listen to their experiences live and direct. And then I think we need to be responsive to them. And I think that if we are responsive and that we put our ear to the ground and to their hearts, and we can help them heal and feel seen and a part of our society and feel like, they can do anything they put their minds to and counter all these negative messages that they receive, then I think that the Black woman would also experience healing as a result. Because, maybe you ain't with your baby daddy, your husband, your ex-husband, whoever anymore, but that doesn't mean it has to turn into a tumultuous relationship or absent relationship. So I just think that one hand would wash the other. But somebody's got to go first. And I think it's us. It's our community. These are our Black boys. These are their futures. And I think we are accountable and we're responsible for what happens. And I'm not taking my hands off. And this is not just for my two sons that I had to carry and get indigestion while I was pregnant with them eating boxes of Tums, right? This is for Black boys, right? Everywhere, right?
I feel like they give you a little bit of a headache right now too, just a little bit,
of
just
course,
a tiny bit.
Yeah, but like listen, I got emails.
I'll be having they back though. I got them. I'll be like, leave that boy alone.
You know why? Because and I heard what you said earlier too about the whole like white supremacy thing. Like, overarching, yes, that's the thing. We have systems in place that make schools feel like prisons, right? And that's because that's what they're designed to do in some ways, right? Where it's like, comply, do this, do that, but you're not developing the whole person or even seeing me. You see me as a criminal when I walk in your school. You see me as a threat because I have on a hoodie. It's all sorts of stuff. So I battle with that because I'm teaching my young men how to present themselves and not to allow anybody to stereotype them, while I'm also scared of them being stereotyped. So when my son got in the car with the ski mask on, I was like, get that
shit off.
I lost it out of fear because I'm like, you can't walk around the street like that. A cop see you, they go. While I'm also like, you should be able to walk around with a damn any kind of mask you want, but that's not the reality of our world. Anyway,
and I will close and I will say this, and also for my ladies, and I'm gonna get on my brothers too. As we're thinking about this, reflect back to when you was in college or high school. Reflect back to the type of guy you might have ignored for the type of guy you chose. And if you don't think that plays into some of these things, you tripping. And to the fathers out there, listen, me and my father be beefing. We beefed. Listen, I was there for the drug addiction and all that stuff. And then a lot of my friends from my community in North Oakland love my pops. They have very close relationships with my dad to this day because he was there. It wasn't a lot of us there, and he just opened the house to all of them, right? And he fathered them the way he fathered me. Like, he was just as hard on them as he was on me. So if you going somewhere and it's an extra space in the car, bring some of those boys along. You know what I'm saying? It actually goes a long way. And just like that, and this mother in this book swallowed that pride and was like, hey, I need my son. I need him over there twice a week. And I don't know if it's that direct reason, but I don't think it's a coincidence that little boy, that hyperactive boy who was getting in trouble at school and was hurting because his parents divorced, I don't think it's coincidence that he also became the exact kind of lawyer that he saw and had dinner with every single day. And to act globally, you have to think locally. That's why I focus on 3 individual stories. With that being said, for Omar, for David, that is the lovely matriarch of our show, Jubilee Ransom. I'm Dr. Charles Cole III, and we will see you all next week, same bat time, same bat station. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And if you have a topic, if you have strong feelings, all of y'all know how to get to me. Let it be known, and you might get an invitation for us to have a conversation in public with everybody. All right, with that being said, Jubilee, enjoy your night. Y'all